Hi, I'm Kate McCarthy, and my presentation is about the presentation from elementary to middle school. The young adolescent brain is having some really important and vital changes. So students who are leaving elementary school, which usually happens at about age 11 or 12 after the fifth grade, moving into the middle school, which is 6th through 8th grade, so that's about 11 or 12 through 13 or 14. These kids are at a developmental crossroads. As they move from late childhood to early adolescence, they're developing a new capacity to think abstractly, solve complex problems, and manage multiple responsibilities. They also are having a lot of physiological and sort of social and emotional developmental strides are happening at the same time, which makes a lot of new areas of interest and importance to these kids comes to the forefront. So the change from the elementary model, which is usually one teacher leading a class through multiple subjects, to the middle school setting with multiple classes led by different teachers. It's challenging. Sometimes it's really intimidating. The larger setting and increased demands of middle school are not always the easiest to manage, but the adjustment is really appropriate for this developmental stage. The CDC has a great website talking about this. The developmental milestones. On this website, they talk here about the thinking and learning, the sort of academic side of teenage brain capacity that's happening, more ability to think complexly, better able to express themselves, sense of right and wrong. But they really put more emphasis here on the emotional and social changes. And that is a lot of things we really associate with middle school. So middle schoolers have a lot of concern about their image, they're kind of self-centered, which is not always the most attractive quality, but it's part of their developmental progress. They can be really moody, really influenced by peer groups. They're starting to really separate and develop their own identity away from their parents. So that relationship can become kind of strained at times. The work in school is more challenging. A lot of kids have had a relatively enjoyable and easy time in elementary school. So the fact of having like more demanding schoolwork can be their first real experience of being stressed out. And that's something that they need to learn to manage. There's some things to watch out for in the teen years. Early teens is often where disordered eating might develop. And also sadness and depression, anxiety. These are things to sort of keep an eye out for and, intervene with on the early side. And things that it's important for kids to realize are not unusual, that it's normal to have these kind of feelings, and it's also important to know how to recognize them and how to ask for help. Our textbook addresses the importance of normalizing these stages of adolescent development. So to get from elementary school to middle school in a prepared and thoughtful way is a team effort. You see a lot of middle schoolers in the I thought this picture really kind of gave a sense of the bigness and chaoticness that can be the vibe in middle school. To get there, I made a transition plan calendar. So there's 8 sort of weekly lessons or events in my plan. Week 1 would be right after spring break. There's a counselor-led lesson. So I would go to each 5th grade class and I would distribute a survey just to see what preconceived notions or ideas kids already have about middle school and what they're worried about. So I just used a linear survey, with 1 being like, I'm not concerned, I'm not worried, to 5 being like, oh my God, I'm going to flunk, I'm going to fail. So different topics. The work is hard, there's a ton of homework. Not worried about it, super worried. I've heard teachers are really strict. How will they even know me? And one side is like, not worried, my teachers always love me. The other side is like, oh my God, I'll constantly mess up and be in trouble. Getting around middle school, how do I manage that? Will I be with my friends? Will I make new friends? I've heard there's cliques. Does this even matter? Bullying. So I just made a short list of some common topics. This could be a lot more involved, just depending on what you thought your students needed. So distribute that, and do have them put their names on it and collect them at the end. We'll be coming back to those later. Week 2 would be sharing the results of the survey and discussing those results. And this is the week where we introduce the planners and talk about how to utilize planners. So 4J, at least some of the middle schoolers.
Hi, I'm Miss G.
And at least some of the middle schoolers use planners where every child is given the same one. And then the teachers always put up on their board what homework assignments or things that are coming up to write down in your planner. And these are really useful. They can be used for check-in and check-out. And this is just a YouTube from Mrs. G that is really helpful about how to use the planner. Just gonna give you 10 seconds. So she's...
Science class, I wrote complete observation inference worksheet. And the teacher also noted that we're going to have a quiz on that on Friday. So I wrote that in. The first assignment.
So you can see Mrs. G is just completely hands-on demonstrating how to use the planner. So I would watch this with the kids. I would also send this link to all their parents and encourage the parents to look out for that planner and ask their child to show them, oh, here's my planner, here's how we use it. And the teachers are, if they haven't already been using a planner through the school year, they're going to start, because we want the kids to rehearse this and we want this to become just a routine thing, as much of a habit as possible, starting now, so that in middle school it won't be a big adjustment. Week 3, we talk about the team brain. We normalize the diverse feelings, the importance of peer relationships, and look at their new abilities to take on challenges socially and academically. So we'll probably bring back this chart, and there are a lot of other great resources for that. Let's see, weeks 4 and 5 are going to be fun, because week 4, we have a visit from a middle school administrator or counselor. Here's my friend Morley Hegstrom, who was principal at Roosevelt for a long time. And Morley would always go visit all the 5th grades in her catchment area and just introduce the school. Really, just her visit would set the tone and give the kids a sense of the culture of the school. And she would talk about the kind of behavior and expectations of the school. Week 5, we'd have a visit, a panel of 4 middle school students, and either the kids would rotate from one kid to the next, or they might all just sit in a row and give their presentations, depending on how teachers want to do it. But we want this panel to be a diverse array of kids. We don't want to have 4 straight A overachievers necessarily, because we want everybody to find someone they can relate to. So maybe somebody with English was their second language, somebody who's really into like arts and music, somebody, just a variety of students, to just talk a little bit about their own transition experiences and then where that has led them. Week 6, practical skills. There are a lot of basic things to just get through the day that are new for middle schoolers. So practical skills include teaching students how to use a combination lock, teaching them to use a binder, teaching them how to email their teachers to ask questions or get clarification. That's super important. It's a way they can advocate for themselves and stay on top of things. And so there's a lot of good points in this website, which I've linked at the end. But this would be like an activity with stations. So the kids kind of rotate through the stations and get to practice each of these things, including using the email. I would have them each email me and ask me a question, and then I would email them back just to sort of get that experience of like, oh, you email a teacher or a staff person, it's not a big deal. And then they get back to you as soon as they can, hopefully within 24 hours or whatever their policy is. Week 7, talking about electives and scheduling. So we'd have a representative from the middle school, counselor, admin, lead teacher, maybe the registrar, comes, introduces the electives and explains about how the schedule at school works. So a middle school list of electives, every school kind of has different things, but things like band, orchestra, foreign language, art, and so forth, all might be things. So talk about those classes. Go ahead and have the kids fill in their top 3 choices, which they have to take home and get signed off by their parents before they can turn it in. And there would, again, probably be a link for their parents to look at those choices and have a chance to ask questions themselves. Week 8, we're going to bring back that survey and evaluate, like, what have they learned? That thing you were really worried about back in the beginning, are you still worried, or has that concern been addressed, and do you feel like you understand it better now? So we're just going to kind of see where we are. If we moved from 5 to 3, have we moved from 3 to 1? We'll go through those questions and ideas. Okay, so the last 3 weeks is when the kids and their families check middle school out in person. So there's an open house for incoming students. It's like a field trip. The kids tour the building, they get the lay of the land. If time allows, there could be activities like a scavenger hunt to go find the gym, find the counselor's office, meet a teacher. So go through activities like that if possible. It might just be more of a tour, but whatever works out for the schools. Week 10, the parent middle school info meetings happen. So this would be at the elementary school. There'd be at least 2 sessions, one before school and one in the evening with childcare, and just kind of walk through what the 5th graders have learned in these lessons and give the parents a chance to ask questions. And finally, there's a middle school open house where parents can go and see the building, meet a few staff people. There'd probably be an open house one morning and one evening, and then also the option to make an appointment. Teachers to help with the transition using planners, bigger academic challenges, more independent work, and then that practicing using email is really important. So those are things the 4th and 5th grade teachers can do. Families, we've talked about using the planner and maybe checking on their kids' use of the planner, having the student email with their teacher instead of doing it for them. These 2 things are actually, they seem unsupportive, but they are being very supportive. One is, don't deliver stuff your kid forgot to school. The natural consequence of dealing with a forgotten item is the best way for the student to remember next time. And then finally, when your student asks for help with homework, offer to help him or her find a resource on the internet or at the library, or maybe call someone has an expert, like help them do that, but don't do the work. Keep your hands off. That homework is for your student and their teacher. And your job is to support that relationship, but not to do their homework. these are some references, some links that I used when I put this together, and our textbook. And thank you so much for your time.